So, you know, we're going to get into each one of these in the next slide. So can we go to the next slide, please? So, you know, it's powerful. There's 2.5 billion transactions a day that run through mainframes. You know, server technology is great for one thing, but if you need that horsepower, there's nothing better than a mainframe. And it's reliable. You know, you don't have 71% of all the Fortune 500s have their main core business running on the mainframe because they can't afford to go down. You know, the servers are great for one thing, but you know, with servers, you have the issue of a server going down. Very rarely do we find that mainframes go down, and they run their critical data, their critical applications on it. 92% of the 100 world's largest banks uses mainframes. All the top insurers all use mainframe, and you know, I'm not going to go through the names of the companies on our list, but we have on the webinar right now, we have 17 companies from around the U.S. We have some of the largest insurance companies on the phone with us, some of the largest banks. So it's people who need to get to that data, make sure it's secure, make sure it's reliable, so they can run their business. Next slide, Byron. So when we sent out that survey probably 16, 17 months ago, you know, and we asked people, what do you expect? What are your business expectations and hopes? And if we start at the top left, improve budget control and IT effectiveness. They want to be able to reduce IT costs. So the way, one of the ways that people are reducing IT costs are, you know, there's a couple of ways. One is to reduce the number of MIPS that runs through and MSUs. So we've got an open systems that allows you to take EOS 360, run both on the mainframe, to do all the calculations on the mainframe and then view it on a server. So that's one way to reduce it. The other way is we're announcing a new product in a couple of months that will actually reduce the MIPS, the amount of MIPS that you're running. The second one is accelerate business agility. You know, you want to simplify IT structure and systems from mainframe to open systems. So most people that we talk about today want to have the horsepower of the mainframe, but then take really the viewing of the reports and throw that out to an open system. Increase security and availability. They want to manage the security, maintain the ability and performance of the IT systems, and there's no better way to do that than via the mainframe. And again, the ensuring the reliability. You know, you select vendor on SLAs or business understanding. People want to make sure that they can get to these applications, and the reliability and the uptime of a mainframe can't be beat by anything. So, you know, we feel that at RSD that, you know, the mainframe is going to be around for a long time. We saw you know, 5 or 6 years ago, people were looking to get rid of everything off the mainframe, but, you know, when they really looked at it, the cost to do that, and not only the cost, but the, you know, the reliability, the security, when they weighed all those factors, a lot of people said, well, we're going to keep the mainframe and we're going to go to this hybrid approach. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to my esteemed colleague, Byron Maynard, who's going to go in, talk about the survey, and then go into EOS, do a demonstration, and he's going to hand it off to Matt, and then we'll take questions. So thank you for your time, and we'll talk to you at the end.
Thank you, John. Appreciate the introduction, and again, I think, as John kind of alluded to, there's a lot going on today in the industry. specifically with keeping your applications on the mainframe, and the opportunity to move some of that mainframe stuff down to open systems. But where I want to go here is now focusing on 360. The customer survey that John talked about was done a couple of years ago, 3 years ago, 2014, and some of you participated in it. And we took the response of the customer base, in essence, to feed what we wanted to do with our roadmap, which finally came out with EOS 360, which, by the way, was announced as GA back in October of 2016. So 2016, sorry. So the customer service we took started off with continuous applications availability. And as you can see from the chart here on the right, the ability to expand the spool without unloads and reloads. Most of you administrators on the phone today know what types of problems that can face you can be faced with. So we'll show you how we've done that in 360. The next item here is a performance improvement. So what did we do in 360 for that? Well, we changed the AMI, the Archive Master Index, from a BSAM file to a VSAM file, specifically to improve the searches that the administrators do, or if you've given authorizations to your end users to access the AMI, it increases the performance and the searches that they do to get the data that they need to restore. Optimize dashboards. Just to show you, the access, data stored in EOS, when things are going to be expiring, etc. We got about 58% of the group wanted to see something in that area. And one of the biggest areas that the survey came back with, and the information that it came back with, is access and new user interfaces. 58% said usability, 32% said a new client. We have done that. We've rewritten the thin client in an HTML5 format, which we'll go into in a few slides. 31% said, well, we use Microsoft, so we want to provide our end users with an integration to the Microsoft quote-unquote suite of products that they may have installed in their site. 31% of the people said they looked for that. 28% of the people said they wanted client access from tablets or phones. So as we move forward, 36%, as we talked about, wanted an access, a new user interface, administration through a GUI interface. So those are some of the other things that we decided to look at. And finally, as John alluded to in the beginning, there's a lot going on between the mainframe and open systems. There's fully mainframe, and there's a mixture of open systems access, and we like to call that a hybrid version. So 28% of the people said ZOS to open improvements. We do have something called the Eos Bridge. It's been around for a while. We've made some specific improvements in that, and some of the output from what's going on in the bridge and what we can do here at RSD will show you a way of reducing the MIPS consumption in your mainframe today. So with that, what do? Well, we created EOS 360, and as we like to call it, the next generation of output management. EOS 2.1 currently available. We will be supporting EOS 2.1 until June of 2018. We will be offering extended support. I do recommend that if you have not moved to 360 by June of next year, then you contact your sales rep, either John Scagnelli or Jim Guthrie, to talk about what we call extended support. So EOS 2.1 to EOS 360. What did we do? In the chart that you see here today, on the far left, we have the EOS 2.1 modules. The first ones in orange is the engine, the ISPF support through TSO, support for APIs, and our EOS print server, which is called Dr. Print. There's no real new modules in 360, but the 360 improvement, here we've improved the ARUP performance, and we've created what we call an automatic spool expand. I do have some upcoming slides that would go into detail on that, but I think a lot of the administrators are going to be happy to see something like that. Now in EOS 360, those components are now called, those modules are now called the EOS server. Next we have the TCP capture tool, the VTAM capture tool, subsystem support, AFP and PDF capture support, and AFP and PDF analyzers. Why do we have two? Simply because AFP and PDF capture allows you to capture, as I call it, blogs of data in either AFP format or PDF format. It's captured just as that. It's a blog of data that goes into the spool and that is made accessible to users. However, in order to split and index that data, you would need the AFP and PDF analyzers. That's the writer capture facilities that would now allow you to split and index those formatted types of reports, the AFP and PDF reports. So what do we do as a technical improvement in 360? Well, the EOS writer, there's going to be a lot more information coming through the writer for you to digest and look at to see what's going on through the writer. You just won't have those messages, writers waiting for work, etc. You'll have some additional messages. The FSS, well, the FSS was usually used to capture those AFP and other types of formatted reports, but now it will support line mode reports, which will allow you to capture those line mode reports a lot quicker if you're using the FSS to capture that data. And lastly, here we have what we call a push versus a pull mode from JES. We're no longer going to wait for JES to tell us the data is there. We are going to be polling JES to see what data is available and getting it down and distributed to the end users a lot quicker. So what do we call that? We call that EOS process. And then moving down to the client side, EOS client, if you do not have any thin client users today, then with EOS 360, you'll get 5 users to play with, and then ultimately contact John and Jim and say, well, I need 100 more, I need 200 more. But that gives you the opportunity to play with thin client. How do we improve that? Well, we rewrote it in HTML5. We've now stopped in what was in the thin client, the reliance on Java. There's no more reliance on Java at the desktop level. So no more calling support and support saying, well, you got to get up to the current level of Java because that's where it's supported. We don't have to worry about those phone calls anymore. So that's why we did it. We did the upgrade into HTML5. API client accesses, again, same as above. You'll get 5 users. What did we do here? Well, we added the access through tablets and smartphones so that the people in the field, specifically for those the banking industry and the insurance industry, where you may have claims adjusters out in the field that may have to look at some reports, so they now can use their tablet. The Outlook add-in, we talked about that in the beginning, where our survey said people wanted to be able to use more of the feature functionality of Outlook directly from EOS. Well, now EOS 360 will do that. We are also offering EOS Spool Manager, which is now a GUI interface to the spool. Today, most of, quote-unquote, the administration and access to the spool data, which is normally message class and JCL type information, you did that through a 3270. Well, in today's world, it's moving. It's changing a lot. I'm going to use the old-timer term here, but most of us old-timers, we know what's going on through 3270 access. We know what a PF8, what a PF7 is, but a lot of people coming into the industry today don't really know about 3270 access. So this GUI interface now gives them what they look for all the time. All I want is a URL to click on and go where I need to go. So that's in 360. We were also looking at improving the profile management and at some time in the near future, providing a GUI interface to the profile management. In addition to not only a SharePoint integration, but we have, as noted above here, an Outlook add-in. So individual users, once they're authorized, can stay in Outlook. On the bottom of the screen where it says Mail, Calendar, People, Task, etc., they're going to have a link that says EOS Access. And guess what? Click, they go, they're directly routed back into the report list for EOS, and they can do what they do normally, find, search, prints, etc. So that's the availability here for what we've done to the thin client, spool manager, and in the future, near future, I might say, profile management and a SharePoint integration. We've done that by utilizing web services since it's readily available today, and it makes the coding of the thin client a lot easier. And what do we call that? EOS Access, which we'll show a little demonstration of that in a little while. High level of security, encryption and masking. This is our interface to the IBM ICSF facility, which allows you to protect that data, highly secure that data, the report index, the spool, the AMI, the reports themselves are encrypted, but to the end user, they still see the reports in the same way that they've always seen them with the encryption facility. However, with the masking facility, you now have the ability to mask out fields in the reports that they access. And last but not least, we have a piece called Audit 2.0, which is really EOS profile management, giving you the ability to look at data that you're producing from the SMF records in EOS today. We're going to be using JSON formatted reports that are now easily interfaced with your business intelligence applications that you're running today on the mainframe or open systems. And what's that called? Well, that's called Eos Cockpit. So that's the 45,000-foot view of EOS 2.1 and what it looks like in RSD EOS 360. So there's 5 components: server, process, access, protect, and cockpit. So the 50,000-foot view of what they all look like, this will build out in itself. We've got EOS 360. We've got the core engine. We've got the features related to ingestion and reports. We've got the accessibility through tablets, screen, monitors, etc. We've got security and privacy. And most of all, we're giving you the ability to report on and audit what's going on. For those of you who have the application that we call Activizer, this is a replacement for what Activizer does today. So let's take a quick look at the server improvements. I mentioned before that we did the AMI improvement. We changed it from a BSAM file to a VSAM file. And this is an example of one of our customers, 2 of our customers who had 2 different environments. The first environment that they ran their conversion on was a $1.3 million AMI with, excuse me, 1.3 million archived reports in their AMI. That AMI converted in less than 1 minute. Now, there is a conversion here needed, and we'll talk about that in a few slides to follow. So here are some of the use cases. Using a range of creation date plus a form, it was 5 to 60 times faster. Some of the other use cases down below here, and using an expiration date plus the form, it was 1.5 times faster. That AMI was converted from the old format to the new format in 1 minute using our utilities. The second environment that we have is 2.9 million, 3 million archive reports. That converted in less than 3 minutes. And in the use cases here, creation date searches, it was 10 times faster. Creation date plus the form was anywhere between 40 and 70 times faster. That's right, they saw a 70 times faster increase in the data coming back to the end users. And then to purge the master index in a simulate mode, it was 2 times faster. So that's the improvement in the AMI, the Archive Master Index. The next improvement that I talked about on that the chart at the beginning here was the automatic spool expand. This now gives you the ability to not have to shut down all of the EOS components in order to allocate additional space to the spool. So it makes EOS highly available. We reduced the downtime, as I just said, and it reduced the number of errors that the administration guys or the system guys who do that recovery process, it minimizes that 100%. So an example, the customer that we surveyed had 500 users balanced across 3 EVTs, 3 EOS writers with 2 FSSs running, and 5 print servers. That's the dock-to-print facility that we have. And then the spool was about 10 gigabytes. Now that spool gets full. So what do they have to do? Well, they got to stop the EVTs, they got to stop the writer. Minimum it's going to take you is 15 minutes. Unload and reload the spool. 45 minutes or more, depending upon the size and what's going on in the environment, and then restart the EVTs with the writers, which could be about 10 minutes. Now, that has, this scenario has a minimum effect of about a 30-plus minute outage, and that's really unacceptable because of your service level agreements to your customers. So with the automatic spool expand, it happens based upon some configurations and keywords that you set up, and we'll show you what they are in a couple of minutes. But again, you can see the improvement and the ease of recovering from a spool full. Yeah, the spool expand settings. These are settings that you set up prior to using the expand feature, but these are the keywords that we use in the init and the fload. All of this happens, as I like to say, automagically once they're defined. So you have a spool fill. We know based upon these settings where to go to get that extra spool space, and the primary spools are then expanded by number up to 64. And the order of the spool that you want to use, the primary spool, the actual spool itself, and then the extensions. So simple to set up, easy to use, and saves you a lot of time. So EOS process. Again, a quick 50,000-foot view of the types of report data formats that we capture. The writer, subsystems, the AFP and PDF capture tools, TCP/IP capture tool, and something that only a few people know about, I might add, and use is the batch capture tool. So that, in addition to the push-pull feature that I talked about before, makes the process side perform better. It gives the users quicker access to their reports, and the ingestion side happens a lot quicker. So protect, as I talked about before, that's the data encryption at rest, and the additional piece to that is field masking. Now, field masking is an area where a number of our customers are going to and have asked for. It gives you the ability to mask specific fields in the reports that these users see. So one user may be able to see the last 4 digits of the credit card, and the other user may not be able to see the last 4 digits. So field masking allows you to do that today. In addition to the data encryption, helps you satisfy a lot of those PCI and PII requirements that says who can see what and why do they need to see it, and if they don't, you now have the facility to address that. So now we're also setting up for the protect side the secure distribution through what we call a third-party solution. So that's now within the protect side. And then what we're going to be doing is reviewing the access rights management. In essence, we are looking into, and it's scheduled, it's on the roadmap for 360, going to a role-based management concept, which is RACF plus the authorization profile usage. So some of the information can go into their RACF profile, and some of the information can go into their authorization profile. And as I talked about earlier, we have some restrictions in the way people access some forms in what they call a non-private list. Cockpit. Cockpit, as I mentioned before, gives you the view of what's going on in EOS today. In essence, it's a replacement for what we called Activizer a number of years ago. It'll identify those negative trends, what's happening with EOS on the ingestion side. It gives you the highs and peaks of the usage of EOS. And what we found by using the JSON format down below here, it's an easier integration into your BI tools, your business intelligence tools, because we are still taking the SMF records and we're converting them to the JSON format, and that JSON format now gives the people on the open system side a tool that they can ingest the data and create their various reports. EOS Access. We have 3 bills here. The benefits, it's an improved user experience. It's still secure. It gives you access through the Outlook client, and we will be able to integrate with the content management and any other applications that you as the customers would like to have. The architecture was built with Angular 2 framework, which Google supports today. And it will support the latest versions of the browsers. So you've got IE, you've got Firefox, you've got Chrome, and you've got Edge. So we will be supporting all of those browsers. And the architecture is really best based on REST web services, so that we can interface with all of the applications at the laptop and the phone level, iPhone level, for example, and iOS and Microsoft. So we're going to be integrating with those, and we have that today. So what I'd like to do now is just show you a quick demonstration of access. I think we're still on schedule here, although I do like to talk a lot. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up Chrome, go to that famous RSD homepage, which hopefully all of you have an automatic link to. And I'm going to open up EOS Access. You see even the logon screen has changed. Put in my password. And I have my server list here listed below, where I can now select any of the servers that I'm authorized to see. So I have a technical account spool that I look at. I have the ability to show my advanced options, which are here, and I can change them if I want. If I don't want to change them, I can leave it alone. And I log in to Access. And you'll notice what you see here is your report display. In the upper left-hand corner, if you have multiple environments that users are authorized to see, they can get to them here. How they look at those reports, whether they're private, public, partner, the global report list, or the global user list, is a drop-down here. So as we go down to the buttons here on this panel, actions. Actions are related to those things that you can do to an individual report. You can export that report. You can add notepads. You can delete, which 99% of us here at RSD say you don't use because you don't want your users to delete reports. You can print reports, and you can transform reports. So that's the Action tab. The Filters tab, most of you use these filters today, where you can filter out the specific data that you want to look at. These at the top here are what we call public filters, which means everybody who has access to quote-unquote the thin client, or now Access, can now see those filters and use them. And then these specific ones that are highlighted in blue here are your private ones. Only you can look at those. Now the user also has the ability now to set up his own filters, either by report name, description, report version. You have some other options here where you can go by date, tox, or additional advanced. So I can hide my filters. Here, I can do a quick locate, and if I do a locate on, let's say, AC asterisk, and hit enter, all I see presented with is the first match of AC in my list. So you can locate the reports from here. I backspace and I clear that field out. For most of the customers that are always getting reports, they can refresh the list by clicking here, and you get a refreshment of your report list. User settings, as opposed to having that customized button just above the report list in Thin Client, we've now made it easy for those users to move around columns. So they can move the name somewhere else in the list. They can move it back to the beginning of the list. They can also change the size of these columns, make them bigger or smaller. This is a pixel. There's no set number. You can make it as large as you want or as small as you want. Here on the top, you have the ability to where you're going to show the reports, whether you're going to show them before the report list or side by side. I have it checked here for side by side, which you'll see an example of in a couple of minutes. So we'll close that. So what we can do is we can open up a report. Let's open up the phone billing report. You see it opening here, and since it has a TOC associated to it, the TOC is opened up to the left, and now I have the ability to expand that screen. I can look at my TOC list and go to a selection of customer name. I can click Flore, and it goes right to Flore, as you saw over here on the right-hand side. I can now expand that so it takes up my whole screen. I can reduce that. And I can just drop it over here in the corner where I have a tab. I can also open up an AFP report, a PDF report. Takes a little bit of time here, but there it is, only because I'm connected to Geneva. So this shows me the First Savings Bank, or Second Street Bank, and it's an AFP report, and I'm at the mercy of AFP to do what I want to do here. And again, expand, reduce, and I can drop it here to the corner. Now I'm going to take another report and show you, as soon as I locate that report, the AR invoices. I'm going to open up the AR invoices, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to transform that report. So I have my transform scenario set up. In essence, we know most of your customers screen scrape data from the 3270 screens and then drop it into an Excel spreadsheet, and they spend 2 or 3 hours trying to figure out what's what and where to move it. Well, here I've created a scenario called invoices. I'm going to extract it to Excel. I'm going to click on transform, and Excel opens up, and I've got my spreadsheet. I can enable editing, and I can do what I need to do with that report, and I have it prepared for me already in that spreadsheet format. There's no need of me doing any additional screen scrapes. So now I can go back here, open up that, I'll close that, I'll close that. Up here in the right-hand corner, we have the control panel, which now gives your users the ability to set the column settings permanently, change the servers, add filters, set up forms, etc., and the display. So here is where the users set up the information that they need to look online. And I go back to the report list, and I can now log out of the environment. And with that, I will close this down, and I will hand it over to, well, I have one more screen here. I'm sorry. Real quickly, the 360 benefits, kind of addressing what John addressed at the beginning, improved auditing capabilities, reduced cost with a hybrid model, which includes the bridge, accelerate the business agility, the Outlook integration, security, what we have as far as masking and the encryption facility, and as you all know, 40 years of reliability here at RSD and a strong customer support. Now, for your systems people, this is the migration to move to 360. It's very simple. Number one, there's no costly database migration, and here are the 12 or 13 steps that you need to do as you're done going from 2.0 to 2.1. Make sure you have the current EPF level all the way down to restarting the writers and the capture tools. That's it. Your only option, folks, is whether you want to migrate the AMI when you do the conversion, or you want to use the old AMI and just go forward with that, and at some time in the future go to the new format. Now, that's it. Matt, you're on. I'd like to introduce Matt Zahn. John gave you guys a little bit of an introduction to him. I'll give you a little bit more, but you're good to go. Matt, thank you.
Okay, thanks, Byron. So, again, my name is Matt Zahn. I'm a TAM for a number of the RSD customers in the West and the Midwest. I started, as John said, about 18 months ago in 2016. And as John stated, I also supported the product at Southwestern Bell, AT&T, from 1989 to 2015, which was about 26 years. And I saw it grow and change from what us old-timers like to call WSF2/ERD to EOS, and now to the new product, EOS 360. So I wanted to, Byron, do you want to go ahead and next slide? Hello, Byron. Oh, there we go, thanks. So I wanted to give you a little bit of the scope of the operation there at AT&T at the time of my retirement in 2015. At the time, we had 11 EOS production systems that were spread across 8 data centers, and those have since been, or during my time there, we consolidated those down to 2 data centers. We had approximately 6,000 defined users, approximately 100,000 unique form IDs or reports, each one of them a unique corporate report. And in our AREP AMI database, we had 35 million plus archived reports. And the uses that we had for EOS, besides the regular report viewing, which at times we would reach up to 100 plus concurrent users on each one of those 11 production systems during the normal peak morning and afternoon times. We used it as our official legal repository for reports via the AREP component of the product. So it contained all the reports for all corporate business units, and this included both mainframe and mid-range platform applications. The other big use of it was for our extended retention repository for legal holds that were placed on reports. So one of the important things about that was very good about EOS was that we had 100% integrity of our archives. When we switched over to SMS managed archives, and since that switch, we were able to, even if we had backups via SMS, and was able to recover any reports that the primary copy may have gotten damaged or whatever. The other added bonus with that was that because they were on SMS archives, we had no archive conversions to do when archive media was upgraded. And the way we ran our backups of the product, we were able to recover in a disaster situation our current and archive data to the last nightly DSS backup. So we pretty much could bring our system up on our disaster recovery site from the last nightly backup that we took the previous night. Next slide, Byron. So one of the advantages that we always liked about EOS over competing products in the marketplace is the ever-expanding tool set of EOS. There's a wide variety of capture tools that Byron had, laid out in his presentation. An extensive number of batch utilities. Another big selling point is the multi-platform capability. Basically having an EOS open product, the Eos Bridge which would let you transition to that EOS open product or reduce your MIPS that you use viewing the product, and also the TCT, which would allow you to capture mid-range output on the mainframe. And then lastly was the API web services. So I'd like to liken this expanding tool set to a box of Legos. So you can build some unique solutions with all the tools in this tool set by combining them in a variety of different ways. And one of the examples that we did to take the component Legos and create that Lego Death Star, as you can see on the illustration, was an application that we built, that I built, called the AMI Restore Mechanization web application. Okay, so we used that. We built it using the EOS Java API and combined that with the AREP Restore batch utility to produce an application that would allow our end users to restore reports from the AMI. And we wanted to do that to reduce calls to our central help desk, but we didn't want to give authorization to the regular user access to the AMI. So we built that application off of our main web page that gave access to the EOS thin client, to the 11 systems that were production systems. And we also did some additional parts of that, was to limit the restored report lines from the AMI to 100 million lines per user. So by doing that through a GUI interface and the web application, we were able to reduce the workload of those of basically 5 EOS help desk personnel that were on the central help desk. So this is just one example of how we combine those tools. The nice thing about it is you can use your own imagination to combine them to meet your own uniques for your companies. So, and with the addition of EOS 360, the web services component makes this type of integration much easier. So that's all I have for that. I guess we're going to take questions from here. I'll pass that to, is Pauline, are you going to, okay, Byron?
Before we get into questions, there's just 2 things that I'd like to mention. One is the support for version 2.1 of EOS will end in June of 2018. So a year from now, we will no longer be supporting version 2.1. And the other thing is we are starting a migration policy at RSD. So if you're running competing products to EOS and you want to reduce the number of your vendors, we have a very, very great program that can save you significant money. So if you're interested in that, you can either get a hold of me or Jim Guthrie. Thank you. With that, we'll go to the questions. Pauline, do you have any chat questions?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
I actually also have currently 2 questions, so for now. The first question, will since client be transferred over to 360? Will the transforms in the syn client be transferred over to 360, or will the transform have to be recreated? So that's very specific.
Yeah, I'll take that. The transforms will come over. We have, each customer that goes into 360 and purchases or already has EOS access will have the utility to convert those transforms from thin client to 360. So that will happen. They convert very smoothly and easily. So there's nothing for you to do. Basically, the difference is the different presentation to the end users. Other than that, what you see in thin client today, version 3.9.3, build 50 is the most current, I believe. You'll see in EOS access. So there's no worries.
So online thin client is still compatible with EOS 360?
Yes. In addition, you can run thin client with 360. It will function, but again, as John just said, version 2.1 will go bye-bye next year this time, and we expect everybody to be running Access and EOS 360 at that time.
I do have one additional question. I'm not really sure of this question, but I would ask it. So 1 year earlier, in one earlier panel, it looked like EOS Access was the name of a group of products, thin client, API, etc. But is the new replacement for thin client also called EOS Access? EOS Access is a group and an individual product?
No, EOS Access replaces thin client. So it's a access method in its own. In addition to that, you will have the ability to write we'll give you the tools to write APIs through the use of web services to either reformat the presentation screens, or similar to what Matt mentioned in his presentation, just change the initial screen that the users log on, put in some searches or things like that. But Access is the product replacing thin client. The other pieces of that are called the APIs, etc. So it's Access today, thin client yesterday.
How difficult is it to customize the EOS Access tool to remove action options like delete?
Very simple. That's usually done by the administrator. So it's basically the administration is only going to change in the sense of what you're viewing and where it's found. All of the features and tool sets from thin client transferred over to Access, and basically it's the same. You'll give authorization and take authorization away.
Additional question, will EOS 2.1 all components be tested and made compatible with ZOS 2.3? So is EOS 360 all component tested and compatible with ZOS 2.3?
I'm going to defer to Matt on this one, but I believe 2.1 is compatible with the new version of ZOS, and then I'm 95% sure Access is also. Matt, you can embellish on that if I got anything wrong.
Yeah, as far as we have no knowledge that there is no like APARs or anything that's required at the ZOS 2.3 level. So it is compatible that we know right now.